You say to yourself, well, gee whiz, I got big problems, or I have things that go on in my life that you don't understand, and you've probably not been through anything like what I've been through. And let me just tell you a little story about my background. I went to college. I was a high school tennis phenom, and I went to college on a full tennis scholarship, one of the top tennis colleges in the country, and then went out on the pro circuit and got sponsored by major companies and things like that. And, as I was going through college, I noticed that it was probably near the end of my college years that the ball, the tennis ball, started looking like a pineapple. You know how you ever get into a pool, chlorine pool for too long, and then you get out and you see that kind of halo light around the light effect? You all probably experienced that when you're in it too long, and you see, the ball started looking like that to me. And I said, I was tops, I was on covers of magazines, all this kind of stuff. I said to my coach, geez, I'm having some problems. It really is, it's bothering me. And he said, well, maybe you're training too hard, because I was the type of person who trained 12 hours a day, literally. I was on the tennis court all the time. Nike would send me shoes, or Adidas, and I would ask them, how many pairs of shoes do you want? I'd say, I want 50 per year. And I would burn through the toes of the 50 shoes because I'd be out on the court so long, working so hard and things like that. I wanted to be the greatest there ever was, and that was my attitude about life. And I wanted to commit to that, even though I was a scholar athlete and did well and could do a lot of things intellectually. I wanted to be a great tennis player. Well, the ball started getting a little bigger and a little bit furry, and I just said, geez, maybe you're right. Maybe I am training too much. I took a couple of days off. Didn't really help that much, but I went back and it just started getting worse. And I started getting really bad headaches. And then those headaches got to where there were migraines. Then I had problems even, playing tennis and problems even functioning, because I have to go into a dark room. Like if you ever hear anybody get migraines and you can't have any light and any sound, and just it'd be horrible. I was otherwise a healthy person. Things were going along great. Sounds like a wonderful thing. But it was really, really bad. And so they started sending me around to doctors. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be on the top of the shelf of the pros and you're going to be great and all this kind of stuff, you got the best access to health care. And they started sending me around. And I probably went to 50 or 60 different doctors, okay, around the country, and spent literally months in hospitals doing all kinds of tests and things. I'll tell you that people sometimes are so eager to try to find a source. I remember going into a facility, and they wanted to do a banner of psychological testing on me, and they ask you like 745 questions, or 7,000. You take all these questions, and then they give you like a report, on what kind of person you are. And I'll never forget this psychiatrist coming and saying, I think I've got the solution to your problem. And my father, who was a very prominent judge, was with me. He's like one of my best friends. And, he said, well, I think your father should be there. Great. My father was there, and he said, listen, I think I've got the solution. The reason why you're having such problems and, having, sort of whatever depression or eye problems is because, secretly you really feel the pressure of your father who's trying to put pressure on you to become a lawyer. And, that's just something that is something you can never, attain, because he's such a prominent judge, and you feel that pressure. And so you're internalizing that. And he goes on my father, and I start laughing at him. And the guy says, what, you think this is funny? And I said, no, I don't think it's funny. My dad wants me to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer, okay? To show you how ridiculous some of the treatments were. It was just, the bottom line is they couldn't find it. Then I go to all these different doctors and eye doctors and all these people, and finally this one doctor sits down and you know how they put those things on, say better or worse, and they go through all these things, and he's shining lights into me, and he says, oh, I found the problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, well, I got good news and I got bad news. Well, give me the good news. Well, the good news is I think I found your problem, and I think I could diagnose the situation. Great. What do I have? He says, you have an eye disease. What's the bad news? He says, the bad news is you'll be blind within a year, and there's no cure. Now, imagine if I said to you that you'll be blind within a year, or you'll have such severe sight disability that you will not be able to function in a reasonable way without learning as those magical people who are blind do with the cane. It's a pretty intense type of thing to get, especially when you're a pro tennis player and you're on the cover of all these magazines. And I was a great spokesman. I was like a Rhodes Scholar candidate, so I would go and they would come up with the mic afterward, and they would say stay in school and, eat Wheaties and, talk to your parents nicely. And, so I was like, it was incredible, how you get the press. And like you see now, this is many years later, now the media covers you in different ways. Back then there were less channels, and so, there was a lot of media attention. And all of a sudden you're telling me now I'm not going to be able to see. And he said, yeah, and I'm really sorry, but what we can try to do is we can try to improve your sight by using certain kinds of contact lenses and other things, and you have to use like hard contact lenses. Some of you are familiar with soft contact lenses. Hard or more of a firmer type of feel. Okay, great. They put he does these contact lenses, he starts putting them in. He says, well, I got good news and bad news. Okay, well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is I think through some really technical formulas, I might be able to create lenses that you might be able to see with. What's the bad news? The bad news is your eye is going to warp. It's going to warp outward. So what's going to happen is these contact lenses are going to start popping out. So you have to understand that, they're going to pop out, and you're going to have to be able to be in a position where you can, find them, or you're going to have to order new lenses. Okay, why don't you order me like 10 pairs? He goes, well, I got a little bit more bad news. The bad news is your eye vision is going to change every 4 weeks. So if I order you a pair, it takes 5 weeks to make the pair because they're custom made, but every 4 weeks your vision is going to change. So all I can do is either give you this pair, these couple pairs now, and if they pop out of your eyes, then I can guess and maybe put a prescription in for future things, but you're going to have to deal with that. Oh, okay. No stress, no depression. So okay, that's the way life deals you these things. I'm going to go forward, and I kept playing tennis as long as I could until I had some side where literally these contact lenses started popping out every hour. Every hour. You're in a movie theater, contact lens pops out, you think you're finding that thing? I don't think so. You're on a roller coaster, contact lens comes out? I don't think so. You got the window open, the contact lens comes out? I don't think so. You're on a tennis court, contact lens pops out? I don't think so. Think of all the many places. And again, okay, no problem, Scott. Why don't you just wear glasses? Well, that'd be great. I'll just wear glasses. Okay, what's the bad news about glasses? Well, the nature of my disease lent it to you could not be corrected with glasses, because once the correction got off of your eye, the light filtering in wouldn't filter in properly. So the best I could be corrected with glasses is 2400. I don't know if you know what 2400 is, but you can basically see 4 fingers in front of you this close. Other than that, you really can't do that. So now I'm rendered, where I'm in a position where I just can't, not going to be able to continue tennis. And so I decide what I'm going to do is go to law school, but I'm blind, can't see. So, and in law school, when you'll find out that what they do is they call on you. Like if you haven't had a chance, go and rent the movie Paper Chase. It's an old movie, but it's a movie that shows you about law school and how Socratic it is. And Mr. Jones, can you please tell me what that case stood for? And everybody turns around and looks at you, and you get humiliated in front of everyone and you want to shoot yourself. What I want to do is be prepared for everything. I wanted to do well. So what I did was, since I was not able, like most people, if they say to you, hey, can you tell me what that book means? You could flip to the book and sort of look up and look down. I couldn't do that. So I read every single page of every single textbook and memorized them all. Every page. Because I couldn't look down. And then I would look down, making like I'm looking down, but I really couldn't see anything. So you're talking about reading 400 or 500 pages a day. Okay, so you're talking about a lot of pages that you read, depending on the type of law school you're at. So while this is going on, I have these lenses popping out. I can't be really corrected very well. I can't really see, and I'm reading like this, and I'll never forget one of the stories is, you get called on a class. One time I got called on in class, and the teacher said, what about the Jones versus Jones case? And you know what, for the life of me, I couldn't remember. It wasn't in any of the books. I thought I forgot. Unbeknownst to me, he was bringing up another case that wasn't in the book. So when I had to take the book, and I had to go like this. He thought I was mocking him. He said, what, are you mocking me? You think it's not in the book or whatever it is? Nobody had known. Nobody knew. Even some of my family members didn't know that I had this problem, because I went around and said, I'm not going to allow it to get in my way. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to show people that it's irrelevant. And that was the first time that people actually learned in my classroom, much to their surprise, that Scott wasn't just looking down at the book. He had memorized every single page of every single book and every single case and every citation, so that he wouldn't have this problem. Because I did not want to appear as though I was to be given any special treatment at all. I wanted to be challenged and make it as hard as you could. Meanwhile, I've got these contact lenses popping out every couple of weeks. My eyes are getting worse and worse. And then after a while, he says, listen, I got good news and bad news. What's the good news? Well, let me give you the bad news first. Okay, what's the bad news? I can no longer correct you with hard contact lenses. Oh, jeez. What's the good news? Good news is I can correct you by putting 2 lenses on each eye. I'll put a soft lens in, And then I have to calculate an arithmetic formula because it's a certain type of power. And then I have to use negative inverse algorithms and then come up with a certain thing. And I can put a hard contact lens on top. And then you'll be able to see pretty well. Not great, but pretty well. But then you won't be as blind. I mean, you'll see whatever, 2200, 2000, whatever it is, but you'll see better. And you can at least function. You know, okay, great. He said, you have to understand now, you have 4 lenses in your eyes. You're going to have to take them out every day and clean them every day. And if they pop out again, we're going to have to do the same sort of thing. And so over several years this is going on, I have probably 100 pairs of lenses that have been popped out of my eyes, okay? I'll never forget, I was doing a lot of philanthropic work at the time, and I hosted this big festival, this jazz festival, because I'm a music guy. And so I do a lot of concert promotion. So I was hosting this music festival, and I was, you know, I'm in a tux and I'm in front of all 3,000 people, and I'm, hey, welcome to the show, and blah, 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 and let me thank all the people, da, 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 da. And while I'm talking on stage, my lens pops out, and I catch it in my hand, okay? If I can find this video, I'll post it on YouTube. And I say to the people, I'm in the middle of talking, and I got this thing in my hand, I said, I got one shot. I went like this, put my eye up, and kept talking, okay, without missing a beat, and they gave me a standing ovation. It was great. I was not going to allow that to affect my life. I was not going to allow that to impact the value or what I was going to achieve, okay? Meanwhile, I was going through all these problems. Now, along the way, you have to understand, as the disease gets worse, what happens is you get what's called corneal scratches. What is that? Well, what happens is that you ever get a piece of dirt in your eye and just like you think the world has ended, okay? Well, what I would get is I would get that. That's what a corneal scratch is, except for it lasts 3 days instead of 4 seconds. Imagine that. I mean, now you're dealing with that hardship and headache. Okay, so I remember, just to tell you a little story about that, I had about 20 of those happen to me over a period of years. I remember calling up my doctor one time and saying, you know, hey, can I go see the doctor? I've got a problem. He said, I'm sorry, the doctor's not in today. And by now I had him on speed dial, you know, on my portable phone and stuff. He said, what's happening? Well, he's home. Home? This guy works 8 days a week. So I call him, call him on his cell. I call him on his cell. He's home. I go, hello? He said, hello. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, if you ever have a problem with your eyes again, I will drive or fly from wherever I'm at, and I will come to your home. I go, well, that's not what I called you. He said, I got my first corneal scratch today. He said, I have 3 ice packs on. I've got a Valium. I'm asking for pain medication, and I can't even function. And you tell me you have 26 of them? Okay? You know, and the guy was like, just moved. Finally, take it over years of time, I'm going through this all this time. You're losing lenses, and you have 2 contact lenses in each one. Then they come up with a new technology. Scott, you want to be the guinea pig? They're making a lens that's called the Saturn lens. It's a hard lens inside of a soft lens. Wow, that's cool. Okay, well, if you qualify for the program, and I qualify for the program, okay, great, wonderful, great. And then they find out, well, they can't make it strong enough power for my eyes, so I can't use that. So basically, my eyes are deteriorating. I'm basically operating. What happens is when you get a corneal scratch in your eye, which happens every single month now, okay, you have to take out the contact lens in the other eye or both eyes will swell shut. So what I'd like you to do when you go home today is I'd like you to take a piece of saran wrap and I'd like you to tape it over one of your eyes and try to function. That's what I live with for years. Finally get a phone call. Guy says, you want to be the guinea pig? We're doing eye transplants. We can put a new eye in. Want the good news or the bad news? Want the good news? We can put a new eye in. What's the bad news? The bad news is you'll be one of the first people. It's like an organ donation. If it rejects, you will be permanently blind. Permanently. Well, okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. I can't live my life. Let's do it. If I'm blind, I'm blind. I've already counted how many steps it is to everywhere. I'm already working that thing out. Okay, do it. He says, I said, well, it's the procedure. He said, well, I need to explain the procedure so you understand. They're going to sew in with 12 stitches into your eye. We're going to wake you up in the proceeding during the surgery because you have to tell us whether or not you see white light or something like that. Now, that's a little bit much, you know? And so what I did was, okay, let's do it. I'm going forward to it. And they woke you up, and I remember waking up, and all I could see was like a white light. I can't see anything but a white light. He's like, do you see the white light? It's like, yeah, I see the white light. It's like, great, crank that stuff up, I'm back under again. I finish. Now, you get done, he said, okay, I got good news and bad news. What's the good news? The good news is the surgery was a success. Okay, that sounds like great news. What's the bad news? Well, the way this surgery works, each month you're going to have to come, and I'm going to take a razor blade and cut out one of your stitches in front of your eye, and then we take a film, because when you cut the stitch, the eye will move ever so slightly, and then I have to cut a stitch next month on the other side, and then in 4 different things like a pizza pie, you're going to do that. Okay, now I don't know about you, but when you sit in front of those little things, and the little thing comes up and he says, better, worse, imagine him come with a scalpel and go, don't move. Okay? And they go into your eye, and they'll anesthetize whatever, and bang, they hit it, and then it clicks, and you can feel sort of a click sound. So they do that over a period of a year. Okay? And during that time, you have problems with, it's an organ thing. So you got to take medication, and when you take medication, I have a reaction to medication. Then I fall into a coma or whatever it is, and they tell my parents, you better say your last things to Scott because, he might not be around anymore. And you just cannot even fathom. Well, take him off the medication. Well, if you take him off the medication, the organ will eject, and the eye will fall out, and he'll be blind. It's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, take me off the medication. I'd rather live than die, And you take off the medication, what do you know, as God would have it, the eye stayed in, and now I see. And I have 2 contact lenses in my eye. I had to wear 4 contact lenses up until about 8 months ago. And they finally put in 2 contact lenses, so now I have a contact lens in each one of my eyes, and now I see like 20/25, okay? And, to go through that and to understand that I'm not just some guy who's wearing a nice suit, who my life was perfect and it was great, and I'm coming in to tell you, oh, you can be great if you just work hard. I've lived through it. I've seen, and that's not even the worst stories. You read some of my stuff in my book, you just won't believe. Stuff happens. Life happens. And you got to recognize that that's okay. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it.